Hello and welcome to this class on lifecycle management. The last few weeks you have learned how to create an add-on in Cloud Studio, got a good understanding of various artifacts in SDK. Once you have developed the add-on, what next? Let's understand the lifecycle of an add-on in this unit. So SAP Cloud Application Studio is a client application installed on the developer's computer and connects using a secure SSL connection to the SAP Business ByDesign system. Cloud Studio gives the developer an easy development environment to create and develop an add-on without knowing the system internal architecture. SDK supports complete end-to-end lifecycle of an add-on from development through deployment. Depending on the nature of the add-on, it could be developed on a customer or a partner environment. From the title of this slide, some of you might be wondering with the term tenant. Let me give you some idea here. A tenant is a secure and isolated runtime with a unique URL. One system can host multiple instances of ByDesign. In other words, SAP can host multiple ByD instances of one or more customers in one system. When a customer signs up for SAP Business ByDesign, a test tenant is provided as an initial tenant. A customer-specific solution or a one-off can be directly developed by a customer or a partner on this tenant. Now this very first version of your solution is referred to as original solution. Once an add-on development is completed, you can assemble and download the solution from your source tenant and upload to the production tenant. To make the solution active, it's important to activate and scope the add-on solution here. A new version of the solution, or in other words a patch solution, can be developed for new features and bug fixes on the test tenant. This slide gives you a brief idea on the various steps involved during the add-on development. In the earlier video units of this course, you have learned how to create a solution in Cloud Studio, importance to have a bug element for scoping, and productive use of your add-on solution. Here, as you can see in the slide, once the solution development is completed, you could check in all the files, run a performance check at the solution level. This is important because the system suggests several improvement tips of your code during this step. Activate the solution, assemble and download once a performance check is completed. This will give you a zip file. Now that you have downloaded the solution from the test tenant, you can deploy this to a target tenant. Deployment describes a lifecycle step which copies or deploys a solution using the SAP Cloud Application Studio from one tenant to the other. This includes upload and activation of the solution on the target tenant. Please ensure you scope the solution. In this case, customer production tenant is your target tenant. Though it's a two-step approach explained here, for customers with several add-on development, SAP recommends purchasing a development tenant specifically for developing all the add-on solution. The add-ons can be deployed to the test environment for thorough testing before moving them to the production tenant in that case. Moving on, developing an add-on in a partner development tenant. SAP certified partners play a crucial role in extending the standard ByDesign solution. It's important that partners develop and deliver high quality add-ons to their customers, ensuring the performance of the overall cloud solution is not hampered. SAP certified implementation partners can purchase the license for Cloud Studio and thereby develop add-on solutions for various customers. They are entitled for a partner development tenant wherein add-ons for several customers can be developed. Once the add-on development is completed, it can be deployed to the customer test tenant for the customer to test. A new version or patch of the existing solution can be created for bug fixes and adding new features later on. As the first step, in the partner development tenant, you could see there is a possibility to switch the customer. The Cloud Studio lets the partner to create a customer profile by providing the customer ID. Once you switch the customer, all the add-ons pertaining to that customer will be listed in the Project Explorer in Cloud Studio. Once you switch the customer, you can create a solution, create bark elements, check in all the files, run the performance check of the solution, activate, assemble and download the solution. And you could move it to the test tenant as I already explained, upload the solution, activate, test the solution further. You could further assemble and download from your test environment and then move it to the production tenant, upload it, activate it and scope it for the productive use. Moving on, we have already seen a development tenant and test tenant in the earlier slides of this unit. Depending on the nature and role code of the tenant, certain activities are restricted on a test tenant. For example, switch customer and using SAP Business Configuration Objects or BCO in other words are not allowed to be used in a test tenant, which you could easily make it out from this illustration here. Whereas the other steps, creating a solution or copying a solution, importing a solution template, etc., could be done in both the development and test environment. Moving on, in week 1 you already saw the types of solutions. My colleague already explained what are the various types of solution you can build in Cloud Studio. Typically when we discuss about add-ons, it is a customer specific solution or a one-off developed specifically to meet a customer specific requirement. On the other hand, we have another type of add-on which is a multi-customer solution or in short MCS. MCS is a type of add-on that is developed by a partner and can be deployed or sold to multiple customers. For example, partners can build a MCS and address a functional white space in ByDesign or a country specific localization to cover the needs of multiple customers in a specific country. A partner can present the use case that needs to be addressed via this add-on and SAP can create the add-on on the partner development tenant. Quality review of this add-on is mandatory from SAP side before a partner can make this add-on commercially available. Furthermore, a unique installation key is required to deploy the MCS to several customer tenant. For more details, to get all necessary information on the complete partner lifecycle process, please refer to the following wiki that I have provided here as part of the slide. Now just take a look at this table for various solution types and activities possible. Here as you can see, not all the activities are possible for all types of various types of solutions. As you can see, developing on customer test tenant, it is only a one-off is allowed to be developed and MCS cannot be created on a customer test environment. Whereas similarly the second step says deployment to multiple customers, this is possible only with MCS because as we have already seen, a one-off is developed specifically to meet a customer requirement, so deployment to multiple customers is just not possible here. Similarly, a solution ownership of a one-off lies with the customer, whereas for MCS or a solution template it is with the partner. The certification process from SAP is required for MCS but not required for a one-off, and solution template this is not applicable. The solution creation is typically done by a customer or a partner in case of one-off. For a MCS it can be only done by SAP. As I mentioned in the previous slide, once you have the necessary approvals, SAP creates the add-on in the partner dev tenant and then later the partner can develop the solution further. And in case of solution template, a customer or partner could do this. There are certain admin mode relevant content that we already see in the previous units and weeks, which is relevant for both one-off and MCS, but in case of a solution template this is not required. As you can see, several scenarios. For one-off it is a very particular specific customer specific requirement that you are addressing by creating a one-off. In case of a multi-customer solution, it is an industry specific, country localizations or white space as I have already mentioned to you in the earlier slides. In terms of solution templates, it is basically a reusable code across multiple solutions which you can reuse. Moving on, let us see what is a maintenance mode. A customer specific solution is in maintenance mode once it has been assembled and downloaded. The solution status is then changed to assembled. You could see that changes to the solution is only possible through a patch. However, you can only make restricted changes to certain content type once you create a patch. This change and delete restrictions ensure that you do not make changes to a solution that could lead to loss of data or create inconsistencies or errors on a customer's production tenant. Refer to the Studio help documentation to understand maintenance mode restriction for each object type. Now let me show how one can use the implementation manager in the Cloud Studio. Now I am in the Cloud Studio. In the previous weeks you have already created multiple solutions. Understand you would have learned a lot about various objects, various content types and artifacts that you could create through Cloud Studio. So here I have opened a solution which is in development. I just mentioned about this in my presentation. Now once you have done with your development of your add-on, what next? You could just click on this button in the implementation manager. By default, if the implementation manager is not available to you, you could go to view and just select your implementation manager. This window appears to you. You could just go here and click on assemble and download. I am not doing it right now in this. Let me see if I have other solution also open on a different tenant. I could just try, this is also in development, I can just try and assemble. So once I click on assemble and download, it gives a warning message pop up which says after assembling the solution it will be locked, you then need to create a patch. This is exactly what I mentioned in the presentation. Do you want to continue? If you just click on yes, it asks for the location on your local computer where you want to save this. I choose desktop, say this, it's activating all items. So it is also important that you have a BAC element. We have already seen in the previous units how important it is to have a business adaptation catalog or a BAC element as part of your solution. Only then you could ship your solution. So you could see in the bottom left corner of this SDK what are the steps that are happening in the background for this. When you click on assemble and download, it says solution check successfully. Now I am just waiting for the solution to be downloaded. So I have already provided the location. So now it says the items are consistent. Assembling the solution assembly is completed. Downloading the file is downloaded. Now as I mentioned, now you could see the status from in development of the solution is immediately changed to assemble. Now if I try to open the solution, there is no way that you could modify any content as part of the solution. The only way that I could do is I need to create a new patch on top of this solution, which will allow me to make further bug fixes or corrections. It also give in this information area to proceed development or do corrections, create a patch. So this is how you download a solution. I come back to the other version. So here I also need to tell you about enable assembly split. This is very important for partners, customers to understand who develops really big solution. This is a feature that helps the partners and customers to basically split this assemble and download operation that you perform with several steps. So as you can see, when I enable assembly split, multiple steps have come up here. It is activate, assemble, download. You can see assemble and download are grayed out. It is not possible. I could straight away go with activate. Once activation is completed, it is a background job. You get an email to the registered email address which you have keyed in while creating the solution, and then you could go ahead with assemble and then download. So basically the steps have been split into 3 instead of a single assemble and download button. So in case if you are developing a big solution, you should keep in mind, remember that you need to split this, enable this assembly split and perform these steps in 3 different steps. So once you have a zip file with you, have downloaded it. In this you have already showed you have assembled. I have the zip file with me in my desktop. What next? So you could come to the target tenant and now you see a icon here says upload. You click on it, it asks for the location of this file. So this is my zip file. I can click on open and then say the file is uploaded. So you could see once the file is uploaded, or rather once a solution is assembled, there is an initial, I mentioned in my as part of my slides, that the namespace is original solution in the first version. This is version 1, and this is the namespace associated to a solution. Once you create a patch, the namespace changes, and that is what you call as the patch solution. I mentioned, if you remember, I mentioned to you that in my earlier slides of this unit. So, the namespace changes. It is really important for you to understand how the namespace changes once you assemble the initial version and then move to the next patch. You also have version history, which says what is the version status, assembled or in development, what is the last change, and the tenant status of it. These details can be found here, but it is not really important for you to understand. But what is important is the steps that I have just explained to you. With this, I move back. So, just to summarize, we covered the add-on development on different tenant types, tenant and specific add-on development, patch creation and maintenance mode as part of Cloud Studio. I hope this was an interesting class for you. See you again in the next unit. Thank you and bye bye.